All right. So, welcome, welcome, welcome. This is a beautiful episode today. I have Sarah-Mergoddess. She's a lovely friend of mine that we've met through the Ocean Collective like a couple years ago, and we've still stayed connected. And like right now, I'm just like having the desire and acting on it to like add and like invite like beautiful friends, people who've been on my journey, like and who know me from this different lens, who see me and hold space for me. And I'm like, what perfect way then to have Sarah here. And I think today we're just gonna have a real, like authentic, just vibe flow of like being in the real present moment and channeling whatever is meant to be here. I had an initial intent for us, but we're just gonna go with it. And yes, Sarah, so thank you so much. And like introduce yourself. Let the people know like who are you and like, what are you about?
Well, first, I want to just say thank you for having me and thank you for just being a part of my journey too. Like, I've just loved getting to witness you and experience you. And so I'm just grateful for this moment. And so, if I were to describe myself, it's like there's so many levels and layers, right? When we go through like this journey. And so, like I guess where I'll start is like, so for me, I was born with hip dysplasia. And so that, for those who don't know, like dogs have it sometimes, but basically this is when your hips are completely dislocated at birth. And so at birth, I would have this amazing traumatic event that would lead to 7 hip surgeries. And so naturally, I'm a mermaid, which is why I'm a mergoddess. And so through this journey of really healing my trauma, is where this kind of has led to this moment. And it's really allowed me to unfold my destiny. And that's really birthing this new, right? This new way of being, this new way of existing. And it's possible for all of us. And I'm just getting to live it and be it in every moment. And some days it's challenging, some days it's a blast, but I love every piece of that. And so right now, my journey is I'm a Paralympic swimmer and I've been training the breaststroke, which for someone who's had hip surgeries is really different, in terms of that. And so what it's allowed me to do is actually take the thoughts, the intentions, and really see them manifest and physicalize in my reality. And so, like, visualizing how my feet are meant to go. So, I started this journey being DQ'd, and by November, I would break 2 American records. So, now like the spiritual and physical are really becoming just like jazz together, we'll call it, like peanut butter and jelly. And so now it's like really, I'm like having a lot of fun just playing around with this idea that, how our brains work, how our bodies work, like how all these things are kind of coming together, and how can I change my physical reality to actually move my body faster and break these records or whatever, wherever I'm meant to go. So that's a little bit about me.
Mhm. And like I love that because that's a great segue in terms of the conversation here to be held, where you've been the perfect example and like I love to talk about this a lot, like on like my just like side of the platform and stuff, where I'm always encouraging everyone to like tune into your intuition, find your own voice, your own source connection to your higher self, right? And follow that spirit. Like how can you begin to work with spirit and your higher self to create that reality or to live your life's purpose, right? The heart's desires. And exactly like you, I've seen like you manifested like back a while, like what, a couple years ago now at this point, right? Where you literally just manifested like having being invited over to California, right? Or like you were saying, like at this point, like how, exactly when it comes to your training, like you're the perfect example of someone who's able to really integrate the spirit in the earth and bring that manifestation out in your experience, right? So what would you say are like your first initial like steps, your process, if there is one,
I
that
know.
like if you were to have this is my intention of what I'm wanting to say perfect with your breaststroke, right? Like what would be your steps for you to begin to actualize that?
Yeah, so I feel like there's so many steps. And like the first thing that I'll say is like learning human design and like discovering that I'm a manifesting generator was probably like the number one step that I needed to actualize this, because like as a manifesting generator, like really like we need a lot of different avenues to actually come back to the same point. So like I might be reading like 6 books at the same time, never finish them, but it really is about like trial and error, but like doing all of it at the same time so that we could come back to this like center point. And so that's really like all of it in a nutshell. Is like, for instance, like when I was training my feet to actually turn inward. So my feet were doing this weird thing. And so I would actually sit and just, take some moments to just visualize what that looked like, watch actually professional swimmers doing what that looked like, and just really like, seeing myself in this version while watching someone else do it. And so then like I journal a lot, so I would write down these thoughts of, what I wanted. But the other thing I'm learning is like when we actually learn how we learn, and like all these pieces together kind of come into it, like for me I learned that like I need to surrender a lot. Like that's like part of my jam, and like that's the one thing that I really don't like doing. Is like I am like go getter, like I can totally like go in here and put all of my effort, but then I'm meant to just totally just not even care about it. And so that's been the thing that's like leading up to it, is like, okay, like doing these like physical pieces of like what a competitive swimmer might do, and then actually breaking those down and then seeing like what is it that I want to do. So my practice may look like very different than someone else, because I'm actually meant to be playing and discovering at the same time. So it's a little bit of like the right and the left brain. So like the right brain is actually our God brain. And so it's where we're channeling, we're kind of in this other space. And then the left brain is more about the logic side. And so by balancing these two and actually understanding that there is a piece for me to have the logic, but there's also this piece to really flow with it and allow it to happen for me. And so by having those balancing tools, it's really allowed for me to like master this in a way of like going to practice, like having an idea, just playing around, seeing what I want to accomplish, and then really trusting in the process, like a swim meet or, something like that.
Mm, mm. So definitely like knowing the direction or the intention that you're wanting, visualizing, um, and then, just emphasizing on like kind of like this last part, so to speak, for you, right? Um, that once you've figured out the kind of like foundation or the basics or the mechanics, right, of what you're observing to get, you allow yourself to play and explore like how you want to express that in your own body, your own form, I guess, right? Um, mm, and definitely like something also like even when we were just coming on here, like something else that like I felt like I wanted to like expand on is like your ability just to be present and you're like, you know what? To just channel like and receive. So you had actually gone to like a drumming circle like last week, right? And you mentioned that you've never done it before, and you just allowed yourself to be open to like channeling how to do this, right? Is that like how your experience was? And you said that people had, like were surprised that that was your first time doing it, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it was amazing because, like so it's like I walk into a new experience, right? And of course like the mind would be like, "Oh my gosh, this is a new experience." And so when we have that kind of thought already in the mind, we're already limiting our possibility and our potential of the next moments. And so what I did there was I was like, I'm noticing, I'm aware that I'm like, "Oh, this is new," but I'm not attaching an identity to it. I'm just allowing that thought to be there, but feeling the excitement of the new, of like, oh, I'm going to do this. Like, this is going to be great. The other thing that was really cool is my friend had a tiny drum for me, right? So everyone has these like big drums, and I have this tiny drum. And like the where I'm sitting is like over here, and the guy was, in front of me, and so how I was positioned there, like I was literally like it was like I became the guy. And then I didn't even realize that the guy has the same exact birthday as me. Which and not like I was like, I went up to him and I was like, I channeled you, and then I find out he has the same exact birth date and day, and I'm like, interesting, like how, because it was like so quick, there was no like thinking I'm channeling, like there was just like, oh, we're moving now, and like, oh, this is what's happening, and I just like didn't need to think about like what I was doing. And then it like dawned on me, it's like, oh my gosh, this is how I'm meant to swim. Like this is my gift, my gift of intuition and really being able to channel whatever I need. But like as I've been growing up, these programs and patterns, I have tried to get in my own way by like thinking that I'm not enough or all these different patterns. And it's like the moment that we can like recognize it and say, whoa, like I'm having this thought or I'm having this pattern, it can be so powerful to like see it as just a thought. And then we can allow ourselves to move to the next moment. And then just life just becomes like really easy. So it's like, what do you want? What is it that you want? And when you understand how you get it, for me, it's like, oh, there's a surrender piece, there's an intention piece, there's an action piece, but like we get to see it in the way that fits our, blueprint. And so that's what I'm finding, because most of my reality I've tried to fit in others, like and seeing and needing to do it like everyone else. And it's like we're each actually here to do it our way. And the more that we can actually tap into that stillness in ourselves, like even in these moments of like, I feel fear right now. Okay, I feel the fear. So what can I do with this? I can feel it and I can be excited for what's coming, because it's like we're so used to, right? Fear or not getting our way or all these things. So these patterns are constantly running. And the moment that we can observe those patterns, like that's when it becomes like really powerful and like such a fun game, to play in.
Hmm. And then it's like, because one of the major themes when it comes to like really actualizing and just stepping out into your desires, manifesting things, right? It is like the constructs that we place around ourselves, the stories, the emotions that come up, and we kind of just get stuck in, right? Um, and that, so that's the act of surrendering, like either surrendering into the moment or surrendering into these releasing, right? Like not holding the attachment anymore. Um, and I feel like that's been, and like you can apply this to any aspect of your life, but in general, yeah, like how do you, how have you trained yourself to kind of like you don't identify it. Like I just literally see you like smiling and it's just like, I'm gonna have fun with this experience I'm literally feeling with like, and so that allows you to release like how like I don't know how your mind process or, goes with that, but that's just like what I see from you. Like you don't like, yeah, you don't hold the judgment of like, oh, I have this fear right now. And then like usually some people are like, okay, I have the fear now. I'm stuck in the fear because I have the fear, right? Or I'm feeling guilty because of this sensation or thought that's coming through. But you just have this like smiling, playful, like energy about it. Like, how do you welcome that in so lightly? How do you create space for that?
Well, so I'll say, like, a lot of my life I've suffered. Like, a lot of my life I've suffered. From 4 weeks old, I had that first surgery, and those patterns just continued. And it wasn't until, like, really the relationship that I'm in now with Captain America, we call him, but like really, like he has like a lot, like his love for himself essentially has allowed space for me to be able to love myself in the most authentic way that I know how in this moment. And so, like, whatever that moment is. So, someone right now can start and be like, okay, like, who am I around right now? Are these people really like supporting me? Are they really like helping me like grow? And if they're not, like it's all good, but we have to really start creating those boundaries within ourselves because that's where it starts, right? Those, what am I paying my energy attention to? And so then it starts with that. So it's like, okay, now I got my circle, I've got people that are reflecting to me. I have people that are like loving me like so much, like the love that I'm expressing outwardly like has been the foundation for me to be able to move in these spaces. So it really started with just an awareness and love, right? Love with this awareness. And then I continue to practice it. I continue to practice. And even when I don't like necessarily like feel amazing, like because I practice this so much, like I can catch myself in a moment like that where I'm looking at fear head on and I'm like, oh my gosh, like this is so scary. But like I created this for myself. So catapult myself to the next moment because that's all it is. It's like we're here to clear our own trauma and get back to really having an abundant life. We have cycles through our earth and all these things and through ourselves. And we're in a space right now where we're going back to that. And it's just been like so important, I think, for me, my own journey to actually witness myself in that space and get here now because this is where we are as humanity. Humanity is in this space where we are needing love for each other. And that love can actually build ourselves and allow ourselves to see ourselves where we are in this moment, and say, man, like, I don't like how life looks right now. But you know what? I created it and I can have gratitude. I can have gratitude that I have water, right? There's hurricanes and tornadoes and earthquakes, and some people don't even have water, And so when we take the steps of the awareness, but also the gratitude of the moment, it shifts the next moment to really have and be whatever we want to create for the next.
Hmm. And so, like, for me, like, two things, like, I'm always like saying how when you can allow yourself to really kind of, at least for me, when I go through an experience, whether that's a personal one, internal, right, or like something's happened externally, um, like it could be like the death of a loved one, right? Or it can be something like you're just personally going through, and it's like, okay, again, like it could have been an emotion of anger, fear, right, or guilt or shame or whatever, but I always find, yeah, like there's a centering that I know that if I were to allow myself to go and attach to that's what's occurring outside of me, right? Or even within me, I would probably spiral. I could go with that energy and I'll be lost, right? I'll be ungrounded, right? And so it's like I've learned enough to kind of like they used to say, like I remember when I would go to like church a lot, and they would say when people would pray to God, and then the moment something flips the switch, like something were to turn over, right? There, chairs are being thrown, et cetera, in your life, and you start blaming him, right? That only further disassociates you between the connection and love, right? And I'm like, okay, I don't want to do that ever, right? So it's like, yeah, I've learned that I have to come to a space of like that stillness or prayer or, my sense of connection of love to like settle in and then hear, like create enough space between me and like the situation, right? Whether it's a physical situation or the thought form of it, right? Or the essence of the energy, so that I can kind of breathe and allow myself to have a different perspective on it. Um, and it's just I don't know. But yeah, like, and so that's one part. And the other thing that I'm listening to you and it keeps like coming up, it's like when you are manifesting, and like you said, I am here creating like whether it is like how I want my body to move or how I want it to look like, right? To be, especially because you're healing yourself, right? You're done it. You're now getting stronger and everything, right? And whatever it is you're doing in your training, but the support system, right? And like how important it is to know, when those investments are actually there, like in your people and your relationships, your circle, that they're actually here to support you, right? Like you were saying, like if you were to have a good circle team around you, like they actually have your well-being, right? They support you. And I find sometimes when you've so much identified with the old part of you that you don't want to resonate, like your soul doesn't resonate with that anymore, right? And it's like along comes with it maybe those old circles of people, right? Or friends or family that in that will keep you in that vibration, right? And and it's hard to advocate for yourself when you're there, right? Um, and I think the best example like that I can kind of bring up, it's whether it's like, your circle of friends at work or it's your own like spouse, right? And they're not like supportive of like your training or your desires of what you're wanting to, bring forth for your own self. Like, how would you say that you either one, yeah, like you said, I think you said this earlier too, like either like realize, okay, like start empowering yourself to let this go. And then even most recently, you started saying like you started really like investing more and like with the circle here where you are, here on the East Coast. Um, and how did you end up finding yourself coming back to like, you know what, let me start planting my seeds and discovering what's here for me?
So the more that I also learn about like our guts, right? And our gut is like the one thing that is always guiding us and leading us to the next. And so a lot of times if we're like having conversations with people or we're, having these experiences and like we're really not like 100% feeling like, oh man, this like really like if we're feeling like frustrated after the conversation, right? Or you're like thinking you did something wrong when you didn't, because like the point is we're meant to be our authentic selves, and there's going to people that vibe with us and there's going to people that may not vibe. based on our energetic signature in that moment. And so for me, what I realized was like, wow, like there are things that I don't like to necessarily do, like cooking, and there's people that in my life that love that and love doing that, and why am I going to create spaces that are gonna like almost create stress for me, right? Because I've decided, like, in some level, like these are the things that I like, and I should focus on the things that I like and the things that I'm good at, and the more that I like really started realizing that, and then I got to witness like people from those spaces, and like I was like so excited and so welcoming and open, and it's like I can now feel energy, right? And energy doesn't lie. Like there's no like sugarcoating energy. There's no like, oh yeah, like nope, I'm going to feel it now, because I've been in my own space. I've been around people that are showing me and expressing that love. And so there's no like non love to the other, right? It's just like I'm knowing like what is going to support me and thriving for the next level that where I'm going, and like that's really important is what I've realized, like especially for me, because like if I'm even around energy that's pulling away, like this pulls away from my creativity, it pulls away from that imagination of that visualizing of the new. And so if I'm not able to, be doing that, then that is pulling away from even the collective, right? Because when we're all not being at our highest vibration and our highest like just potential and love for everything about what we're doing, we assist the collective and we help towards that change. And so the more that I just recognize that, like, I can't like undo what I've been working on, right? Like, I can't just say, oh, now I don't feel energy and I don't know how to channel and I don't know these things, And it's like, I don't need to shout it out to the world either and say, I know this and that. Like, it's none of that, right? It's like, I can now feel energy to a point that I know when energy is actually supporting me or depleting me. And that's it. It's like it's that simple at that point. And then you start to look at it as like not necessarily an identity or oh, this person does this. It has nothing to do with the person. It has everything to do with the growth that you're experiencing, and that growth, those people are going to match that so that you can then accelerate, in your next moment. So it really is like that's the one, like I think for me it was like the hardest thing to actually really like see people at the energetic vibration that they are at the moment, and really just being okay with it and just saying, well, I have to now really think about myself.
Mhm. And so, what would you say when it's the same repeated cycle? You know how you don't like after leaving the conversation or the circle of experience with them or whomever, right? Or whatever it is you're doing, because especially because I've been talking about like Pisces season coming up and Pisces energetically for some people, because it's like the planet ruler, like believe one is like, you have Neptune and then you also, I believe, Pluto. I could be wrong, but um like there's whole energy of like wanting to escape and also fall into like the things that you use to um like as an addiction, right? As a something so you can stop yourself from feeling and growing past this like energy and think you need to like experience, right? And so it's like when you continue to go into the action or you continue to go to the like with the experience of the circle of friends. And I kind of want to like highlight it even more. So you're on this walk or your spiritual journey. And this is like the version of you you've already claimed, Sarah-Mergoddess, right? Or Divine Cosmic Empress. And divine causes, and you've done all this work, like you said, like this is the diet I'm doing, this is the lifestyle I'm doing, right? And so yet you still have little bit energetic leaks here. And do you ever have moments where you feel like you go back into an old shift of these things that pull you further away from what all the work you've had? Um,
Yeah.
and like how are you dealing with that?
So one, like the awareness, right, is like key to like recognizing it in that moment that this energy or this conversation, like we have some kind of trauma bond here at this point, like because like it can't be personal, but like it's still like because when we think of it, it's like everyone is a shadow aspect of ourselves, right? So if I'm being triggered by someone, it's something within me that I have not cleared that this person is now bringing it up. And so what happens is when we actually clear it, we can have conversations with the people, and it's not we're not going to have a reaction or anything. We can be around them and we can be like, oh, okay, like I know myself, now, which is very important to know yourself, so that way you can like study yourself and know, like, because I remember like I got to encounter like energy that I hadn't been around in a while. And I remember like, someone saying, like, yeah, you should do this. And my gut immediately was like, no, I'm getting a no, And I remember like that person being like, oh, no, like basically like almost shrugging my personal no, and like immediately like my inner child was like, what? Like, how dare you like say that? But my heart was just like, oh, thank you. Thank you for like showing me like where I've been, in a past moment. And now I actually get to open myself and be just like forgive that part of myself that maybe didn't understand or understand like what I know now. And that has really supported me. And you may not have as many conversations with those people, but it's important because you're working on yourself. And so the more that I work on myself, there are going to be moments where I can stand in my truth and not even be phased by any other energy, because I'm now in this practice of myself and what it is that I'm getting to be in this moment.
Hmm. And it sounds like you just like me, like you said, like I can't undo the unknowing of the channeling, the light language, of all these practices that I've done, right? And so it's like for me to go back and to either further participate in this sort of, either whether, and like I just want to keep like just to emphasize on people, like whether it's a relationship that's toxic, right? Or an action that you do that's toxic and that pulls you from the direction where you're going, that identity that you're creating for yourself. Um, or like not that anything can ever undo the work that you've ever done in this creation of the now you, right? And the healing you've done up to this point. But like, hmm, I'm giving myself a moment here. Uh, yeah, it's like you kind of set your foot down and say, you know what? This isn't worth me either reacting it to it anymore, right? So then you surrender that initial like reaction that wants to come up and as a trigger, right? And so then from there, like you said, we can calmly have a conversation about this, right? Like just grounded soul to soul. Or I just see that like even for some people, if like we take like plant-based diet versus like not eating plant-based diet, right? Like they either say like, okay, this is a diet I want to have, right? And I just personally, my own values, this is not really supportive of where I want to go anymore, right? So it sounds like you have like built the self-love, like you have to love and value this direction or the vision that you're holding for yourself. and that next level of expansion or version of you, that next layer that's coming up. Um, so it all comes like together to like strengthen the direction or the vibration that you're holding, right? Or the embodiment. Um, and so, because I kind of just keep bringing it back to like, what are the major blocks for some people when it comes to like really overcoming like old circles or cycles, right? Um, and, and especially with the people that I've been working with, like it can either be like an old relationship where there was like one where the partner didn't treat them well, right? And just put them down a lot, or there's other ones where like either people have certain like addictions and things like physically or habits, right? That just doesn't support the version of themselves like they know they've done work on, but it's like, yes, this is maybe the thing that I need to work on even more and finally say, you know what, this is the cutting of the cord, right? Does that, like, I don't know if that like makes sense or goes through, but yeah, it's just like, hmm, like how can you love yourself, advocate for yourself one more step further, right? Because without doing so, it's like, okay, I'm still settling. I still haven't fully stepped in, or at least like, some people need a little step by step, versus some people kind of just jump and take the whole leap, right? And let it go. Mm, mm,
Yeah, like for sure. Like, I mean, the one thing that was coming through was just like, I mean, taking just 1%, right? Like for me, like I was in a very unhealthy relationship and, it ended. And I remember like the one thing I was like, oh, I'm just gonna, commit suicide. Cause that just seemed like, the thing to do, right? Just like, yeah, I don't need to. But there was something inside me that was like, no, like this is like a catapult for you, like this, like it's like if we can start to see like the shadow parts and the things that we're working with and overcoming, if we can see that as a gift,
mhm.
like in the body. It's one thing to like, oh, my shadow's my gift. Like I would write it over the wall, like on cat. Like I write words everywhere too, like of just things to like just remind myself of like, oh, and I'll just be saying my shadow's my gift, my shadow's my gift. But I might in the moment like be in a shadow and be like, my shadow is not my gift right now. Like I do not feel that. But the more that I just say it and and just continue it, like one day it feels like, oh man, like I know that I'm gonna, go to the next level. And I do, like especially in a race, like last month, like, my race, I'm working through some things, I'm learning some things, and I didn't necessarily get a best time, and I'm like, oh, okay, well, I know that like there's something coming because I'm getting to learn something more valuable than I even know, because my swimming now and all of this is kind of like interweaving. Like it just feels like the lessons that I'm getting to learn and embody are, grander than even like the swim race, in general, like what I get to learn. So it's like these shadows are these like tools for us, so like for me, I've had all these different traumas and all these things. And it's like, this is my list of all the stuff that I've gotten to overcome. So like when people are coming to you and they're saying like, man, like, I'm in this bind right now. It's like, oh my gosh, like just know that like the more that you can like forgive and like love yourself and love the other and really see that there is something here for you, that is where the transformation starts and continues in a path of least resistance. Because now, when you've owned it, you've owned your trauma, you've owned the things that have hurt you, you've taken it and you've expanded your heart and you've been vulnerable with it. Now you can actually take a choice and choose more of the direction that you want to go in. Because I know for myself, it's like I would just stay in these loops and like get really stuck in feeling like, oh, poor me, And what I realized was like by me doing this whole poor me thing, like now I'm years and years and years in this loop when I could have been out of it. But all of us need to go through all the things we need to go through to then be able to embody, the wisdom that we carry, and that's why I feel like I'm able to embody this wisdom in this moment is because of those experiences that I've had in my past.
Mm, mm. And then like such forgiveness and love. Like I was actually like talking with my husband about how like there are parts of me, right, that I don't want. It's like I have to hold my facade for people. Like, this is like the image I've curated. So if I ever go outside of that, and then it's like I automatically go down towards like embarrassment, shame, like what are they going to think about me? I let them down, like expectations, right? Expectations of the vision I had right here for this area. And like one of the major keys and themes that have come up for me this week was like forgiveness. Like forgive yourself because that's the first step. Like, and usually some people are when they think forgiveness is like, oh, because somebody wronged you. But it could just be forgiveness because, like, at least in this perspective, from what I was seeing, it's like the expectation of not hitting the mark, right, so to speak. And like, I love what you said, like, when you allow yourself to just enter into forgiveness, like, and I keep right now, my mantra is like, okay, what is this learning? What is this teaching me? What can I learn from this? Because and this is like probably one of the first times in my life I'm really actively like trying to set love for myself, right? Like yeah, the more love you can put into this area, these areas, people, things in your life, like how that narrative just shifts, right? And the energy around it just shifts. And then next time, however, and many unlayerings you have to go through, it'll get easier, like you said, that I can make a more empowered, conscious decision and choice for me and what I'm actually where I'm wanting to go, right? Or like you said, there's by you going through this experience, you start having these wisdom codes that you can share and embark with somebody else because you can feel where they were. Like you empathize with them. And and then like that's like that constant reminder that if we can just like I find forgiveness is such like a major key for like I think goes back to like we were talking about like not identifying with like the thoughts or emotions that come up, right? Because those are the things that block the like you embodying and receiving and like stepping into your like authority in terms of you creating what you're wanting to create and experience, right? If that's how you see yourself or what you want to experience in your life. Um, but yeah, like learning how to overcome that little obstacle. But, and to really see the light that's hidden here, like the next and layering of you.
Yeah, like it really is like beautiful when you can start to see it as that, because like of course, like I didn't see it as that when it started. I was like, what the heck? And that, and there's still like there's always layers, right? There's no like I wouldn't say like, I'm there, because there's still more and more and more that I get to discover. And I feel like that's like the jazz of life, is like we came here to like heal these healed parts of ourselves and learn ourselves in a deeper way to be these multidimensional beings, like to be able to really experience life the way that we were meant to, with all this different technology and all these things and like knowing ourselves deeper. It's like, man, like every day I just wake up and I'm like, oh my gosh, like what would it feel like when every single person like knows who they are and has just like cleared, the past, and they've forgiven, and they've built foundations of love. Like what does that feel and be like, and it's like I go outside and I witness like that reality in my reality, because it's like every day, like I see that for the world. I see that for myself. And the more of us that we can like start to see ourselves in a way that maybe we've never experienced it before, like we all benefit from it. It's not just like, oh, I'm going to, just do this for myself. Like it actually helps us all, by sharing. Like that's even why I'm like sharing more of my experiences now on my podcast, because I feel like even for me to be vulnerable in an experience and really be able to say like, here I am in this moment and there's tears, but I know that I'm experiencing an emotion and I can witness myself being the observer, and later on I can know that I've embodied that, and that's the beautiful thing. It's like now that I'm like recording essentially like this process that I've been going through for years and years and years, like I'm now getting to witness it in like it's just a more like juicier like space, because now it's like I've said it and it's like I now feel it inside. I feel it deeply, like how that emotion now has entered in a way of like clarity. It's almost like this new sense that we get when we've like let go of, some of our baggage from the past.
Mm-hmm. Mm. And like something that like kind of comes to mind, like while I'm listening to you, and then also just like I had done an oracle reading, and ah, like one thing that I know I definitely wanted to say here was how oftentimes you end up thinking like, oh, can I really do this? Can I accomplish this? Can I experience this for me? And yet when you remember like that you are made, you are the essence of the image of the divine, right? God. Like, and we talked about this, like, and that's when you can actually channel a lot because you're surrendering, like I trust that God can work through me, right? And so everything that you do in terms of like you making the decisions and the choices for your own healing, your own health, right? That are for your good and supportive of that um is going to be blessed. And yet at the same time, it's like the divine will, can you trust the divine's working through you, right? Like, can you really like, and I feel like I'm still wrapping my head around that. Like, can I allow myself to trust? Do I trust? What does that mean? What does that feel? When I let myself to sit in that, like just like what is the embodiment of my highest self right now? And can I sacrifice anything else? Or, not really engage, give my energy to that because this is like I could trust that this is where the pull is, right? For the expression outward, so to speak.
Yeah, and I mean, and it was like great. There were a couple things that I was like just feeling when you were chatting, and the one thing that I was feeling was just this like, I feel like I just lost. It's like I get, oh, that's what it was. Yeah, because I'm like, oh, I'm going into the right brain. So the one thing that I've been doing is like doing more things with my left hand, because the left side of the body actually helps us access the right side. So the more that I've learned that in our society, like we've been taught to like do everything with the right side and even think and like think it out and like all these things. And so it's like it's layers and depths of programs that have been embodied in us that like it takes a little bit to really embody this like new version, right, of like really tapping into this other side. And I'm this is my jam right now. Like I'm working with this because like I for myself, like my coach was telling me that my left side of my body like wasn't able to like kick as much as maybe the right side. And so I started like doing things like brushing your teeth with your left hand, like simple things, like even like playing the drums, like with this hand versus your other hand, like just doing different things with that side. And actually, what happened was now my both like sides are even, even when I'm like having pictures taken, I'm like, oh my gosh, like they're both, bam, they're right there. So, just know that like we can tap into that side in any moment, but it's like like that physical practice, right? Of really like saying like, okay, how do I walk? Right? Like how do I walk? Do I walk with like my feet? Like even when I lift my weights, I notice that like when I go into a squat, my right side unconsciously likes to turn my toe. And like I won't even, if I'm not really diligently consciously like paying attention to every detail, like Mike will say, oh, like this, your toe is out. And I'm like, what? My toe? So these are little things that we can do in our everyday to actually help us tap into that right side of the brain, so that then these things become like the unconscious, right? Like we don't know how many times our heart beats or how many times we breathe. Like our body is that smart, but we have tried to control it, most of it, based on the programs and the things that we just are. Like we were born into this. It was just the design of the game. But now that we're actually opening ourselves to this new game of where we all succeed and we all are stars and we're all sharing our light and love and being able to support one another. This is where now we're tapping into this other side. And so when we can balance the sides of like feeling the logic into a situation, but also being able to leave it and really be with it consciously, like this is where like we start to see like rapid change, even based on like what's happening with our planet. Like we're constantly getting these light codes in our bodies, and when we are actually like acting with those light codes, like it become like we start to like, it's like we're revved up, we're more like charged up, and we can actually create and manifest at a faster rate. But if we're still like holding resistance or holding these tensions or holding on to these limitations that we're not willing to, let go of, like that is going to, just we're gonna have to keep learning, and we're gonna feel it in the body. There's different things. It could be a sickness or whatever it is, like our bodies are going to tell us exactly what we need to do for the next moving forward. But it's just good to know that like we have that control, we have that choice in every moment.
Mm-hmm. Mm. And I love that you brought that piece up because it was just like a literal example of like the embodiment, of how you can step into the logic or you can in that logical sense, but then it's like, okay, how can I again soften my connection to that and drop in so that I again just make a different choice or allow myself to, like you said, like not identify with that, right? And then it's just like, okay, what is the right next action? What is the right next move for me to take? Um, that really is like expansive. Hmm.
Yeah, I mean it's just like it's just ongoing. The more that we like really understand like how powerful we are and like how important it is to like focus on our own individual reality, and how much that changes our entire world, like it then just becomes like it becomes more exciting. Like sometimes it can feel lonely, because like you're only now like giving your energy to so many, things. Like it's not like you're all over the place. It's like, okay, this is, and then there's quiet time. There's time to be by yourself, and there's time to, reflect and really like feel what you liked and what maybe you can work on or what you didn't like. And then you can like really fine tune your energy and then allow that energy to be reflected out into your world. And you'll see a completely different world. Like maybe you'll be going to California for 5 months, or maybe you'll be breaking American records, or like whatever you want to do, like you can do it. But it really is about like understanding yourself and giving yourself that space and the people that are really like lighting you up and making you feel good, because like I've found it's so important for me to like be my authentic self. And if there's any moment where I'm questioning being my authentic self, like it just shows that there's parts of me inside that I still cannot be my authentic self. And it's like you just work through it. And then you might go out and someone, and then it's like you just work through it. And it's like everyone is like this catapult for you to quantum jump to your next level.
Mm, love that. Mm, thank you. And I feel like that's definitely a good space just to like, let that sink in, right? Um, and first of all, or lastly, I want to say, thank you so much for like coming here and sharing like your magic wisdom, as you say, your mer drops. Um, and where can people find you, connect with you? Um, if like what are your offerings? Mhm.
Yeah. So right now, like my jam is I'm here to be of service. And so everything that I'm basically sharing right now is access to everyone. And I'm like really like excited about that because the more that I'm seeing this giving, like I'm seeing the receiving from the universe. And I really like there's been moments when I was like a little afraid to do that, but now it's just really exciting. And so I have a podcast, Mer Drops, where I'm diving into my journey of becoming a breaststroker. And I have guests and I have fun. And it's really amazing to just, and sometimes maybe I cry, like it's a really fun time to be intimate with myself to actually share with you that maybe, you may want to be that intimate self and really fine tune and start, really focusing on what it is that you want to bring to the world. I'm also on Instagram, Mergoddess11. I have Twitter and TikTok and all those things. Just type in Mergoddess and you're gonna see a bunch of stuff. I write, I'm pumping stuff out there just so that, I feel like it's so important for us to know ourselves at a deep level. And, the more that I am doing that within myself and sharing it, I'm seeing the ripple effect unfold. So
Mhm.
there it is.
Thank you. And then one last thing I meant to ask you before we go, but you mentioned in the very beginning that it's like a manifesting generator, like aspect key to like be okay that you're either reading a bazillion books at the same time, grabbing a piece of information, and then all of it were your own experiences in your life, or we're talking about the unraveling of everything now, but you're like seeing it as just you've accepted that this is how you learn or how you work, right? And so that all of it just brings you back down to, like you were saying, back to that which you already know, or they all come back together to one point of awareness or knowledge or revelation for you. Is that how you described it?
So I would say like it all comes like all the things that I've learned throughout my life, right? Like even like my previous life, I was a personal trainer and a swim coach. I'm now like I do teach swim lessons and I do them intuitively. So now I can take some of these pieces of the spiritual realm and actually introduce them in the physical realm and share with people how they can actually learn to swim in a more authentic and like grounded way that they have a transformational experience. Like yeah, they're swimming, but they're also like getting to learn about like how they learn in life, right? Like maybe like they're trying to rush their stroke, but they try to rush their job in life, and then they start to reflect and have these little nuggets, come out. And so like I've been, have like similar to that, right? Where it's like the pieces of my experience are kind of just unfolding. Like even like how I'm sharing, like right now I'm just sharing, right? I want to share and I want to get information just out. And I know that all those pieces are like coming together. Like for instance, yesterday I had my first like official like photo, like someone, a professional photographer that came, and like I felt like I was just a celebrity, like in the space that I swim every day, and so like things like that can just like kind of come into your reality because you're choosing how you are meant to show up. Like I know that I'm here to bring something completely different that has never been on the planet. And so in order for me to bring that into fruition, like I can't do maybe things that have already been here because I'm already looking and feeling and bringing in the new in the moment. And so I'm seeing beyond like structures and things that maybe we have been participating in and looking at it as like, what is it that's going to bring us all together as a whole? And that is love and sharing and community. And so the more that I'm focusing on that within my own self and bringing that out, that is putting all those pieces together, and it's just coming together, then it's like I have this Mergoddess like tea, and like now like if people like, is this your logo? I'm like, I guess it is, and it's just like this is the kind of stuff that's like unfolding for me. It's like I don't have a linear path. Like the manifesting generator is literally all over the place, but being all over the place, it leads somewhere. And so the more that I detach and I'm like, well, I'm having fun. This is where we're going. Like this is leading me somewhere. And I'm starting to see the pieces come together. Now it's like Mergoddess. I've been Mergoddess for 8 years, and now like, oh, okay, Mergoddess. Like, oh, I know how to do all this Canva stuff. I like, oh, this is fun. And it's like whatever is meant to, kind of put those pieces together is kind of how it's unfolding. So that's, what I'm recognizing is like, I've been building something for a long time, but it's like I've been building love within myself so I can really like appreciate like all aspects of self, so that in any moment, in any encounter that I have, like I can show that love and be that love for when someone is needing, that experience. So
Mm-hmm. Mm. And thank you. And I want to say that you are an inspiration, especially because in terms of like people in business, say branding, right? And I'm starting to talk more about like business and stuff like that. So they'll say branding and like you definitely all you're doing is just sharing who you are. And like I could see like, oh, she is about like she's a literal mermaid, like in real life, And she's literally found the way to express that in the articulation of this 3D world, of life, physical world, right? And all the tools. And just having it just be expressed how she wants to be expressed. And so I just wanted to say thank you so much for being a real living example of that, Mary Goddess.
yeah, thank you. Like it's amazing to witness myself, in that. Like it's just been a journey, and it's exciting that I'm like finally like just feel good in that, and it's like, oh, okay, like I can be this, I can show up as this, like, because I feel like for so long it's like we see what other people are doing and we're like, oh, I have to do it like that, or I have to grab this or this, and it's like, hey, I'm just gonna do this and I'm gonna allow spirit to show me like where it's going, and that's kind of where it's going, is like it's just wherever spirit wants it to go, and however that's supporting, the collective.
Mm-hmm. Mm. Thank you so much. And for being here with us. And I pray everyone who's heard this receive whatever nuggets and golden wisdom they were meant to receive. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.